In today's podcast, Nancy and I talk about Nooksack Native American Sweat Lodge, the importance of the sweat lodge in Native American culture, as well as the beauty and the authenticity in which a Native American sweat lodge can be shared with non-Native Americans. We also talk about astrology a little bit and speak to how each one of us can share our own strengths, our own spiritual understanding with others in a way that synergistically we can come together for ascension and for the best will for all of us.
Welcome to Expansive Minds Podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Or afternoon or evening, whenever you're watching it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing well.
Good.
So maybe we'll launch right into the intention, because today I'm the one who has something I want to talk about. So
Yes.
surprise!
Yes.
Surprise, Aileen! I think we should talk about your sweat lodge.
Yes.
So
that's
let's
great.
do that. All right. We take a nice deep breath. We are grounded. All right. Our intention today is to be the beings of love and light that we are, to really embody the being of it, and to let that I amness flow through our words, our discussion, and all we do today and moving forward. So it is.
Nice.
All right. Sweat Lodge?
Yes.
Okay, because I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
Although Gabriella Bella, Gabby, you did the Sweat
right,
Lodge when
right.
you were a little bugger with Aileen.
Were you like in 10th grade, I think, Gabby?
Were you
maybe?
Gabby 6th or 10th or something?
Yeah, I think I was in middle school.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
he
was
was
it
still in
middle
middle
school?
school. I
Okay.
think she was pretty.
You're
was,
a
yeah,
little peanut.
yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
You liked it?
Yeah. Now, do you have questions, or are we going to talk about it a little bit?
Maybe define it for those of
Okay.
us who don't
Okay, sure.
really know what it is. And then I want to hear how that particular experience was. Like if you saw any funky stuff.
What that was like? Okay.
Yeah.
So a sweat lodge, a Native American sweat lodge, old tradition, all tribes have different ways that they do it. So I think sometimes people clump in like, oh, Native Americans, and they all do this. It's like, nope, everyone's different. So the lodge that I build and pour is based on Nooksack tradition. The Nooksack tribe comes from the Pacific Northwest.
Is it a transient structure? You build one every time, or do you have a standing structure that you use?
Both. So I don't build it every time.
Okay.
Sometimes it's time to take it down and build a new one.
Okay.
It all depends.
Yeah.
So if a group is going to do a vision quest,
Yeah.
they build their own lodge for the vision quest specific.
Gotcha.
Every property I've been on since I learned how to do it,
Yeah.
I've had a lodge, and I really like that. It's important to me. So
Nice.
I learned about Sweat Lodge from my friend Roderick. We met in Ware, Massachusetts at a youth conference. And one of the things that he likes to do, and I think is really beautiful and incredible, is he likes to share Native American wisdom and religious and tradition,
Gorgeous.
spiritual traditions, because he believes it's important to share it. Because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who are very respectful.
Yes.
And I trust his intuition, and I trust that he knows when and with whom to share it.
Okay.
Right? To not like commercialize it or anything like that. So one of the things that he offers this was a week-long conference with youth, and so he had them build a lodge with him.
Okay.
And I participated in that.
Okay.
And then I did the fire tending for that lodge, and we'll get into
Okay, I was
talking a
going to
little
say
bit about
that's
that. Right.
okay. Yeah.
And it was incredible. It was incredible. And we did an all-women's lodge, and it was so significant. And then he and I, over the years, worked together. He lives in the state of Washington, and he would come out here to Massachusetts.
Nice.
And we would build. In Washington, he uses willow
Okay.
saplings.
Okay.
But we don't have a lot out here, so we use maple out
Okay.
here. So there's a couple modifications. And because I'm not Native American, I say it's based on Nooksack tradition because that is where it comes from. And then I make it clear that it is my, it's more like a shaman.
Your interpretation, or you put your spin on.
Yeah, I make it really clear, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so why would someone do a sweat lodge other than, hey, this would be a cool thing to do, and I'll learn about some traditions? What is the ultimate goal of a sweat lodge?
So there are different reasons. Like, again, I've always built one with youth and families. So I have permission to build and pour a family sweat. And a family sweat means people that I feel are my family.
What
so
do you mean
I can
pour?
do that. So, all right. So
I don't mean to jump. Am I jumping?
No, you're doing great. You're doing great because there's so much about it.
Okay.
So some of the doing a sweat lodge that I've done over the years is for education. You know, the premise is to educate and offer youth, I do it a lot with youth, an opportunity to learn about a different religion and to really experientially learn about it because the sweat lodge is experiential. We say that, we can say that Native American religion and spiritual traditions are earth-based. There's a lot of earth-based ones like Wiccan, pagan, some of, earth-based. That means in relationship and honoring sacredness with the earth and the planet and all the beings, right? So in the Nooksack Lodge, the premise, the idea, the base is, yes, one, purification, because we're sweating.
Okay.
So you're purifying yourself when you're in it.
Yeah.
And the other is, and I love this about Native spirituality and religion, it's so much based in the love and the care for all beings. Nice. So the rounds, the circles, the prayers, and even going on Vision Quest, the majority of that time is creating an energy vibration of love and healing and putting prayers and intentions out to the entire world.
Love it. Love it.
So that it's community-based, becoming a powerhouse as a group in synergy, community-based.
That is what the astrologers are saying. You sent me that beautiful clip with the astrologer. And the ascension energy is the collective.
Yes.
What we're doing here now, getting together, talking about higher level concepts, that is the most impactful for everything that is going on in the world today.
Because we are, we're a collective.
Yes.
And we have a collective consciousness.
Yep.
And our vibration affects the collective consciousness. Our thoughts, what we do, affects the collective consciousness. So it's nice to be intentional. I think doing lodge is a way to set this time apart. Beautiful. To really be intentional. One of the things to know, and I'll go through the list. So to build lodge, when we build a lodge, the first day that you build it, you have to go into lodge, like you have to do a lodge that day. So it's not like so in this one you're talking about, I just did on my property in Vermont, we built the lodge on Friday, knowing that we had to go do a sweat lodge, do the sweat as soon as the lodge was built. We don't build it and then do lodge the next day. So it's like
so that's part of the procedure.
That's part of the procedure. Yeah, you're going to say it. The protocol is to, when you build a new lodge, to then go in and initiate it, bless it, get it going, churning it up, because the energy is going and it's respectful. You take it from the beginning all the way to doing lodge. So we started on Friday. I don't remember what time we started. But we ended up getting out, and then after lodge, you have like a good solid meal, and we were eating until 2:30 in the morning.
Oh wow!
So I think we got out of lodge.
I think I would like
12.
that sweat lodge thing.
I think you would for many reasons.
I think I'd like that. Eating till 2 in the morning.
Yes.
I never let myself do that. That would be a treat.
And in the beginning, just so people know, when we were talking to Gabby, it's because Gabby came and did a lodge. So years ago, 2012 or 13, Gabby came out with the same group I was with, right? This is my little spiritual gang. Yeah. And Gabby came and built and did lodge with one of her friends in Maine. Yeah. And it was a lodge, and we were preparing the property to then do a vision quest later on in the season. So we did a lodge there. So that's why we were talking to Gabby about it, because Gabby came in and did lodge. Yeah. So the group that I'm with, we've been together since 2010. So we have an ongoing energy. You know, we have an
So
ongoing.
you usually have a group of regulars, and then do you let some newbies in?
Yeah, absolutely. So my neighbor up in Vermont, he already knew. I talked to him about how I was going to do lodge, and he'd done some fire tending before. So I invited him to come over, and he was such a fantastic addition. So he helped get the fire going and fire tending, and then he came in for the second, third, and fourth rounds. So there's 4 rounds in Nooksack tradition. So I can start.
Let's
all right.
go chronology, sort of.
So this particular tradition, it's a dome-shaped lodge. All right, and how that process begins is finding the space for where you want the lodge to be, right, on the property. The door in Nooksack tradition faces the east. So the opening to come into the lodge is in the east.
Okay.
And the sort of how much space you need also involves, there's going to be a big fire that's going to heat up rocks. So it's sort of from the inside, what we call the womb, where the rocks come in. There's a circle that you dig inside, that's going to be inside the lodge where you put the hot stones. From that, all the way through to where the fire is going to be, you just want to make sure it's open, that there's no chance that it's going to hit trees and,
Okay.
you know.
So safety.
Safety. It's such a beautiful experience. So with this group, I wanted them to really feel where it should be. So it was fun to have them kind of wandering this field, and I think maybe here, maybe here.
Yeah.
And then when we know where it's going to be, you figure out where the middle is. Where's the middle? Where's the womb going to be? And womb, like W-O-M-B, right?
Yeah.
So it's this, and then once we figure out where the womb is going to be, we put a stick in, boop, and then pull out a string, because we want it to be the circumference. You want to do the
equidiameter.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
yes.
The perimeter
So
of it,
then it's like, okay, put rocks around, to walk around, you know, for where it's going to be. And depending on how many people, I usually have maybe up to 15 people, but on average, 8 to 10 people is who I usually have in a lodge. I like to have space for people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a huge amount of space, because the other thing is, remember, we're heating it up. So you want it to be low to the ground, fairly low to the ground, and not too big, because it's, so after that's marked out, someone digs the hole, and it's down a couple of feet and about this wide. And so one person's digging the hole, and that dirt that comes out of that area becomes an altar outside of lodge.
Oh, cool.
On the east. So it comes out of like the doorway, and you want it to be directly lined up to the doorway.
Okay.
That dirt becomes a mound that's known as the altar.
Okay.
And so if people have sacred things that they want to put on it, it could be a picture of someone who is ill that you want the energy to go through. So anything that you kind of want to get charged up.
Yeah.
Or have beautiful intentions with, which I know you understand all that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that, I'm like, the door's here, the altar mound is here, and then directly lined up is where we create the fire pit.
Okay.
That's going to be heating up the rocks. Then people sort of go off and they start finding saplings. Now, in some native traditions, well, all the traditions, you ask permission of the sapling before you take it, right? Because you're taking life. And so to get the saplings is to ask permission, say out loud or telepathy, and get a feel for if that tree. And we explain to the tree why we're doing this. So when I did it for youth, I would say, you know, we're building lodge to educate these young people, you know, and kind of talk about it. And then the tree either says yes or no.
Huh.
And if it says yes, then we, you know, cut it.
Yeah.
And in native tradition, some native tradition, tobacco is very sacred. So tobacco would be rubbed on the leftover, and then
the stem
on the left. Yep. There's also some Wiccan tradition where you leave a little piece of your hair. So I leave a little piece of my hair because it's like an exchange, right? And I'm going to take this from you, and I'm going to give you this.
Yes. Yes.
Now the saplings are usually, you don't want them any thicker than this. And then, you know, 10, 12 feet tall, you know, potentially. And we gather 14 to 16 of those. They have to be very straight. And they can have like, smaller limbs coming off them, but we don't want it to be crooked, and we don't want like a major turn to come, like a major branch to come off, because that's going to be the way. And so when we bring those back to the sacred gathering of the saplings, we bring them back, and then we dig holes for north to south, east to west, and then on the diagonals.
Okay.
So it's sort of you designate like, oh, here's the east, so my door is going to be here, and it's 2, so it's like 2 go east to west, 2 go north to south, and then you do the diagonal. And it's really cool because they're standing straight up like this. So the whole circle's like this, and then the part comes where it's like, oh, you pull them down to meet.
Okay.
Right. Cool. So the east to west meet, the north to south, and the diagonals. It's like, and we use twine.
Okay.
Everything should be, with the exception of the tarp, but everything else should be able to be compostable and organic. Yeah. So I just use like a nice thick twine. And then it gets pulled down, boop, 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 to, you kind of want to get it to whatever this is, like 4 feet or, 5. And they're tied down, and then blankets go on it. You want it to be dark. If I'm doing it educationally for youth, I won't make it super, super dark.
Yeah.
But traditionally, it's pitch black. You can't
Well, it
see
almost
anything.
sounds like a sensory deprivation chamber.
A little bit.
In some sense.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
because
minimizing
then
the external stimuli.
yes, right, less attachment
Yeah.
to the other stuff.
Yeah.
And then we cover it with tarps,
Okay.
right, because the heat, the rain, keep it all in. So then the lodge is done, and rocks are put around the outside. Again, if it's a stricter, more learned group, then I would have a lot of rocks tight around it. If a newer group or educational or newbies, as you said, I don't put as many rocks around. And I love this, that Roderick taught it to me this way, and I love it, that if someone's in lodge and it gets too hot, they can lie down, and you know what? I'm okay with you opening a little bit of corner to get like some fresh air in, because I'd rather have people in lodge to experience it than get very uncomfortable or freaked out and have to leave.
Yep. Okay.
So it's modified from some of the perhaps more kind of
Stricter,
rules.
rigid. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the way Roderick taught me.
Nice.
And again, I think that's why
Nice.
we're friends, because we like to do it that way. And then we have about 60 rocks that have been gathered.
Yeah.
River rocks are better. You just would prefer ones that don't explode, because they are going to get burning hot in the fire.
I saw the picture on Facebook of John tending the fire. I was like, oh my gosh, what substance is that in there?
Yeah.
And I think it's just rocks and twigs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it looked almost like fireworks.
Yeah, it's incredible. The first time I saw rocks after to come into lodge, it is one of the most beautiful things, because I never knew that rocks could get red hot, glistening, sparkly, shiny.
Yeah.
They're red, red, red. It's
That's cool.
I just can't even explain how gorgeous it is. So you'll have to come up and be in one. So
If I get to eat till 2 in the morning, I'll
yes,
do it.
you will. Yes, you will.
Okay, I gotta let that go.
We'll get to that
A little
part.
bit stuck on that.
That's part of the celebration part. All the rocks have to be blessed,
Okay.
each one individually.
Bye.
Each participant, everybody. So we have the pile of rocks that we've gathered.
Okay.
And then they get blessed going in the directions, calling in the directions.
Okay.
And I just say to people, call in the directions as you know them, the north, the east. And everything goes clockwise, by the way. Everything's clockwise. We want everybody moving and everything moving in the same direction.
Okay.
So to bless the rocks, clockwise when you're doing the directions. And you call them the directions. And again, Roderick taught me it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be beautiful. It's not, So this time, at one point when I was blessing a rock, I was calling in the south. And the image of pecan logs came into my mind, which is like a sweet treat from down south.
Oh.
And so when I was just saying to people, like, just call in what comes from that direction. Like, I just bust out laughing, and I just said, I just called in some pecan logs. And only one other person in the group knew about pecan logs, and we
Okay.
laughed and told everybody, it's like this marshmallow center. She said something like, it's heavenly. And I was like, yeah, I called in the energy of
Nice.
old southern pecan logs. But you can call it whatever you want, animals, directions, the energy of those directions. It all works.
And then once it's all composed, what is the ceremony to enter, and what is their goal when they're in it? What are they trying to do?
Yeah, what happens? So the rocks all go in. Then we set up the fire. We put the logs around it. Kind of set it all up, and then everybody calls in the fire spirits. So each person with tobacco. I do tobacco in that ceremony, and so everyone goes around, grabs some tobacco, and then calls in the fire spirits.
Sprinkles the tobacco on the
before it's lit.
Okay.
Right, so it hasn't been lit yet, and you're asking the fire spirits to please come in. And I say, if people have an intention, they can kind of say, like, this is important lodge for me because, and I ask that you come, fire spirits, and get this fire going for us, and I thank you for being here.
Okay.
And then that's about 2 hours. You have to wait about 2 hours for that to happen. During the day of building lodge, drink lots and lots of water, but not eat a lot of food. So like I had marinated green beans out there. I made a miso soup. So there's stuff that I just kind of keep putting out while they're building, just to kind of, but nothing too heavy. Because it's a little bit of that deprivation piece you're talking about. But I also want them to be healthy. So like the miso soup has a lot of salt in it, and I had spinach in it, and we foraged some mushrooms I put in it. Yeah. And then some of the rocks are ready. Then everyone gathers in, we do bathing suits, in tradition, naked, because it's pitch black, whatever. I have people, they can bring in a towel to sit on. And I say to people they can bring in water. Again, tradition, you wouldn't necessarily, but these are not Native Americans, and this is okay.
Well, there's
this
value
is safety.
to be had regardless. Without
Absolutely.
going to that extreme,
Right.
there's value.
Right, right. And so people come in. You can't have any metal on because it gets so hot in there. So earrings have to come out. Piercings have to come out. No metal on. You can't wear shorts with a metal zipper or things like that. No glasses, if they have metal on. So it's pretty much just a bathing suit or a t-shirt and, easy shorts. The fire tenders, so you have fire tenders that stay out. And the fire tenders get smudged first with sage. So I'll do a smudging of them. And for people who don't know, sage is a plant that's dried, and it's really seen as sacred and cleansing. So I have a feather, and I will have them, and they have to turn clockwise. Everybody clockwise. So the fire tenders are the only ones who can cut between this line I told you about, where it's the womb to the altar to the rocks.
Okay.
The fire tenders can go around that because they have to tend the fire to make sure it's safe. No one else can cut through that because we're creating a line of energy. Once the fire goes, it's charging up the altar, it's charging up the womb. So there's this relationship between those 3 points.
Okay.
That's really important.
That's cool. And I
yeah.
love the 3. 3 is such a sacred number.
Yes.
With spiritual history, there's so much meaning to the number 3.
So we have these 3 spots. So then people gather if you're looking at the lodge, if we're looking at the lodge and the opening is here, people gather on this side, on the left, because they have to go in on the left to go clockwise, to stay in this clockwise direction. So then I smudge them while they're turning clockwise, because then everybody's energy is going this way, and then they go in clockwise.
Okay.
They save the space here for me, like in here, and then this person over here should be the person who's most experienced in lodge, or someone who we know can guide and hold the energy.
Okay.
And then if you have an eagle feather or another powerful feather, then they hold the feather.
Okay.
So everyone goes in. The person who's going to be holding the space at the door opposite of me, they go in last. And then I go in, and I have a plastic bucket, or it could be glass, of water. and a wooden ladle, because I'm going to be ladling water onto the rocks, because it's a wet heat. It's a wet sweat. So when we're in, then I get a feel for how many rocks I think should come in.
Okay.
So it's all intuition. So the first one I did 7. The first round in Nooksack tradition, and the one that I learned, there's 4 rounds. That means you go in, do a round, open up the door. People can come out if they want to. Then you go in, do another round. Other traditions like the Lakota Sioux, it's just all the rocks go in at once, and it's one thing. So they're all different.
Yeah.
I really like this one. I'm glad, because it's really wonderful. So this particular night, I said 7. I felt 7, and I think in part that was we had someone who was recovering and strengthening from cancer and healing. So I think I was also like kind of paying attention to that too, and so in the rounds, the pourer, the person who's leading the round, starts with prayer. Sometimes I put herbs on it. So I did put some sage. I also have some CBD that I grow. And this one was called Dream Queen or Queen Dream. And I asked permission from everybody first. Like, it's going to smell like marijuana. It's not. It's CBD. There's no THC. Are you okay with that? Because it felt like with the full moon, that was happening.
Oh my gosh.
Dreams, like a Pisces moon, it was all about dreams. So I was like, oh, Dream Queen would be awesome to put in on it.
So the pouring is the pouring of the water on the stone.
Yes. And you hear it, it's like whoosh, whoosh.
Yeah.
So the fire tender brings in one at a time. And I have these deer antlers that I found. I don't even remember how or why I have them. And it's a really beautiful way to pick up the rocks and then put them in. So I have the antlers that put them in. And then a theme comes up. So in my case, in the work that I do, and in a sort of shaman intuitive way, it comes through me. So I use more native language to say Creator, Great Spirit, thank you, and we ask that you hear our prayers. We ask that you hear our intentions. So each round is different. This particular lodge that I just did on Friday, it was keyed into everybody, right? But I don't know until I'm in it, and I'm just really intuiting. I'm hearing what it is that I'm supposed to bring up. Yep. So we did call in the ancestors. We called in the first round, I think we called in the ancestors of people that had died and passed away, and named them and said prayers for them and recognized them. And the second one was animals and pets. Aww. So we kind of each round, and then the last round was a really intense. So the first round was 7 rocks. I think the second was 13, then 15, and they all just kind of pile on and on. So eventually, you have rocks that are kind of like coming up like that. And the fourth round of this one was really powerful, and it was very, very hot. And it was really calling us to walk our talk. And so we had to address those people that we were angry with, that we thought were doing unkind and unfair things to the world.
Oh, wow.
And realizing the energy of animosity that we carried within our being. And we had to commit to not carrying animosity.
Nice. But you had to bring it up before you could let it go.
Yeah, we talk about
it.
Yeah. So it's like, so then we ask the Creator, the Great Spirit, to hear us, to hear our prayers, to hear our intentions, and to give us help and guidance. Gotcha. And it's a very humble, it's such a beautiful, humble experience, and everyone gets to share.
Nice. So
we go in the circle, clockwise, and I will say, to, like my friend Richard was at the night, and I would say, Great Spirit, I ask you to hear my brother Richard, and he will start us off, and then after he's done, he says, aho, and that's how we know. It's like a blessing, like, so be it,
like an amen.
Blessed be, amen.
In the Catholic Church, amen.
Right, and we all say aho, and we also know he's done talking.
Right.
Which is great. And then when the round finishes, and I know, so I'll start it, then each person gets to say their prayer and their intention, and they're honest, they're honestly letting stuff out there, and we're putting this beautiful energy out into the, up through the top of the
So you're
lodge.
basically transmuting. You're transmuting the crap into good stuff.
Yes, exactly. And then when it feels like the round's over, I'll say, all my relations, please open the door. And the fire tenders open the door. People can go out. This particular lodge, nobody wanted to leave. They didn't go out, which is great. The second one, after the second, I had to go out and get more water. But actually, John went and got the water for me, which was great. So it was a really beautiful, powerful lodge. And every lodge is completely different, as you can imagine, because it all depends upon what it is we're supposed to be bringing up. And in my case, doing it with my energy, it will be without us knowing what's the shared
You do that to them too. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what we're going to talk about.
We know it's going to get better, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So it's my first lodge probably was in the beginning of 2000.
How frequently do you do them?
As frequently as I can or necessary. I'm going to try to do them in the winter in Vermont, but that's, I'm up in the Northeast Kingdom up there, and the snow is really, but how amazing. So I'm going to try to keep the pathway clear.
I'm not going to do that one with you, just saying.
That you know of,
I won't be in that one. Although there'd be no bugs, so that would be the good thing, no insects.
Yeah, and the morning to Bondas, before we went, behind my property up there is a waterfall.
Oh, beautiful.
And a swimming hole. So we hiked to that.
Do a cold immersion. I'd be on board with the cold immersion. I do like that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So there was some swimming going on, but it was a way to bring us together, and then we came and did lodge. And it's such a beautiful. Oh, and then just for the food part, so building lodge, they did pretty quickly. 2 hours for the rocks to heat up.
Okay.
Lodge is typically 2 to 2.5 hours. Each round is between a half hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
Typically, and then after that, yes. We come out, we're all like drenched, and it's said, and I've experienced it, you never feel as clean as you do after a lodge. The feeling of cleanliness and just the purification, flushing, plus the energy of like so much love and truth and prayers and really the earnestness to like, we want to participate every day. Help us, Great Spirit. Help us, Creator, to participate every day.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. And in a group with witnesses. Then we go up, and it's always like big, awesome, healthy food. Like there was someone had brought a chicken soup that they made. And we had like amazing wild artisan great bread, and I made a huge quinoa, and it was just like all this food, and you're eating, and
it sounds beautiful.
It's really wonderful.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for asking.
Bella, how are we doing on time? Gabriella, Bella?
You guys are about it's been like 25 minutes.
Oh, we're already at the 25?
We do pretty well.
20, I guess.
We're like 20.
You usually seem to ask around, you ask and it's always consistent around 25.
Well, because I don't know if we should be closing. I want to be respectful of people's time. Appreciate everybody listening.
Yeah. So what do you think about this tradition?
I think it's magnificent. And I think it is perfect timing. By meaning everything that is going on energetically with the ascension and the need to purify and detox. There are toxins all around us energetically in the air, and the need for purity and setting that positive intention. So I think it's beautiful on a Native American earth level, because energetically that's where we are with the ascension. You sent me the link to that amazing astrologer. What is her?
Pam Gregory.
Pam Gregory. Okay.
Humble,
so
honest.
That astrology stuff. For those who know what they're doing, a true astrologer, scientist, absolute scientist.
It's incredible.
The detail behind it and the accuracy, in particular, the accuracy. If I went back to some of her older stuff, the accuracy is spot on. Now I'm going to tell you, I want to say 75% of it went over my head. I actually have to wait till she starts talking about the planet, and this one is conjunct with this, and I'm like, whoa. And then she'll say, now what that means is you're going to notice blah-de-blah, that, and spot on. Absolutely spot on. So I think, and that's what she's calling for, going in, that's where the energies on the astral level, galactic level are, going in, purifying, And that's how we're going to manage this stuff that's happening. I'm just going to call it stuff, I'm not going to label it that. That is by going in, detoxing, and setting positive intention. And I think how beautiful it is that that is about as grounded and rooted as you can with the Native American tradition. So thank you for doing that for all of us, frankly, what you did for all of us. I listened to an interesting cryon this week talking about why the energy is so different. Because I was talking with my friend Carolyn. She's like, yeah, things are changing. Yeah, when am I going to see it get better?
The good stuff, yeah.
I'm like, well, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And according to Pam, buckle up for October and November of 2022. She said it right at the beginning, and she's still holding that course. So she says, September, go in, ground, get that center so that when the storm hits, you can be the eye of the storm. So I was listening to Cryon, and he was explaining why the energy is ascension energy and why it is so different, and practices that maybe we did years ago that didn't seem that impactful now are. Affirmations, intentions, some of the few. And he was saying, apparently our solar system is in a different place than it has ever been before. Positionally. And as a result, the sun, which leads off everything and it trickles down from there, the sun is in a position that it has never been before, and as such has changed its magnetic frequency. And we have the sun in us, we are pieces of it, and we are affected by it. And so since the sun is now at a different frequency, it's changed. It's a game changer for everybody and everything on the planet, and even throughout the solar system. So I've never heard it explained like that. I like scientific reasons. I like a little more concrete reasons. Oh, okay, so the position, okay, frequencies change. I'm a former electrical engineer. I understand frequencies and waves. Quantum people, we love that.
Exactly.
So now that just solidified to me a little more that, okay, things are different. Things are different on an energetic level, and that's the reason, because of the new position of the solar system.
Interesting. Yeah, I found
never heard
that,
it that way.
With astrology, I was sort of like, that's interesting. And then over the years, when I started to listen to some astrologers, because social media and YouTube, which is great, I would feel and see what was happening on an energetic level. And then astrologers would say the same things that I was feeling. And I thought, that is fascinating.
Love it.
That I can read the energy. We can talk another session about what it means to read the energy.
Yeah.
I could read the energy. I had an understanding of what was occurring and what was going to happen. And then I would hear an astrologer say the same exact thing by reading and mapping the stars.
More validation.
Like, this is wild and cool and amazing.
I'm not into, I need to know my future, but where it helps me is if I'm way off. Like this weekend, I have 3 people in my circle were like, and I'm like, okay, it's full moon. And it was the anniversary of 9/11, so there was a collective. So these 3 people that were like, are very empathic. And what Pam Greger was saying, Mercury went retrograde and 5 other planets. Like, so how do you translate that? We're screwed. And that's a non-astrologer speak. I think that's like an unprecedented number of planets going retrograde. But so, for example, when I'm fighting, technology will go amok, communications will go amok. I may be more apt to break out of a conversation and step away than trying to have somebody see my point, because I'm like, okay, this could be one of the spin-offs of Mercury being retrograde. So normally I would dig into this discussion, but I'm not. Or normally if I can't upload, like I was trying to upload the last podcast. And after 3 tries, I'm like, okay, I get it, I'll wait. And then I did it this morning. So it just helps me. One, it validates if I'm feeling some intuitive sense, and then 2, it helps me drive my direction. Like, okay, maybe this isn't worth banging my head against the wall. As I used to say to the children, I'm like, if you're banging your head against the wall, step away from the wall. And so the astrology kind of lets me know where the wall is.
Totally. It's a heads up.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I forget. I don't necessarily see it ahead of time, but I love when I remember to see it ahead of time.
Yeah. Sometimes 3 tries. Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. I'll be like, what is going on? Oh, let me see what Pam has to
Yeah.
say. I'll be like,
Love
yep.
it. Yeah, so thank you. I now subscribe to Pam. She's great.
Yes, she's great.
So we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
So how do you want to close?
Well, thank you for asking about the lodge. It's something that, again, someone gifted to me and was very meaningful to me as part of my practice.
It's not something you hear a lot in mainstream media and even not ton of spiritual practices, so I thought it was worth sharing. If it resonates with one person, then woo, yay.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that's the remembering that the expansion, right? More to be revealed, like we always talk about. That there are gifts out there within the diversity that other people are doing. It's part of their way to be on the planet, and as open as we can be to learning and experiencing. And those that are sharing, like Roderick shared it in a way that was meaningful and manageable and respectful to non-Native Americans. I think that beautiful agreement to take each in in synergy and respect and honor to a higher vibration together.
Love it. And in that vein too, the sharing that has been up in the energy. If you have gifts, put them out there. Stop hiding. Let them out. Very good. So thanks for tuning in. And as always, more to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.